Year 10 History, and welcome to your new unit on Australia and popular culture post 1945. Let's head into the classroom.
The guiding question for this unit will be, how have Australian identities impacted upon and influenced popular culture? To develop our historical understanding, we're going to look throughout the unit at 6 internationally popular Australians: Dame Joan Sutherland, Rod Laver, Bon Scott, Paul Hogan, Baz Luhrmann, and For today's lesson, the outcome is explain the change in continuity of internationally popular Australian cultural identities. Explaining change in continuity means we are trying to understand that individuals, groups, beliefs, values and actions that have caused the construction of various Australian identities. It is about recognising patterns of similarity and difference amongst the factors that have shaped different Australian identities in different historical contexts. Australia's internationally popular identities have come from 4 major cultural platforms: music, film, television and sport. These platforms converge people from across the globe and tend to reflect the broadest spectrum of and the most popular social values and beliefs. So what makes an identity? Why are identities important for our historical understanding? Identities are a combination of features that create personalities in people. The features can include cultural settings, emotions, physical features, and psychological preferences. Identities provide historical content with a personal and human quality. In historical content, identities can build subjective emotion and drama amongst the objective facts of historical context. Identities develop historical understanding by providing the audience with an empathetic entry point into the historical narrative. Identities allow us to understand historical context from a human perspective through the depth of feeling and colour they provide. Identities allow us to understand beliefs and values. The following historical excerpts are different in that one is concerned only with objective facts, whilst the other constructs an identity that allows an entry point for empathy and an understanding of the times, thoughts, beliefs and feelings. The famine of 1790 was not repeated again, though the colony was on meagre rations many times during its first quarter of a century. Convict scythes cut a larger acreage of maize and wheat and barley each year, and herds of sheep and cattle increased slowly, but the population was soaring. On 8th of March 1794, the very last provisions were emptied from the stores, and 6 hours later, an English store ship was seen from the headland. Even Sherlock Holmes, the fictional creation of that keen Scott supporter Arthur Conan Doyle, would surely have been confused. For the bowler hat perched jauntily on the back of the head of his man who had just entered Scott's Victoria Street offices bespeaks a confident gentility. But his shabby raincoat, buttoned up to the neck to hide his collar, suggests he has known roughness too, an effect heightened by the fact that he clearly has a slight length. The Scott and his men is all the more confusing, for they had been expecting a spick and span cavalry officer with hair pomaded and a waxed moustache in the classical fashion. This fellow standing before them, however, appears at first glance to be a more than somewhat dishevelled farmer with kind brown eyes. A mini lesson task. Rewrite the following historical excerpt so that the audience is more readily able to empathise with the events that are occurring. Why look at popular Australian identities within the historical context of international culture? International culture is a set of beliefs, values, individuals, groups and actions that has shaped our understanding of the world during an epoch of rapid globalisation during the last half of the 20th century and early 21st century. Australian identities have been shaped within the context of international popular culture and also shaped international popular culture. What have these influences meant for creating continuity and change in how Australians understand their beliefs and values? Identities, in reflecting beliefs and values in international pop culture, can reveal a lot about a nation's zeitgeist.
What does zeitgeist mean?
Yeah, good question. Zeitgeist usually refers to the spirit of a particular historical context or the popular ideas that help shape that context. The following excerpt demonstrates how Australian identities reflect and construct national beliefs and values through the influence and platforms of international pop culture. Warnes was a blessed and privileged generation, born into social progress, raised amid mass prosperity, basking in unexampled comfort, believing in personal transformation. The cult of the makeover flourished. Gurus of self-help proliferated. Jenner's advice may have resonated partly because of this widespread belief in the charismatic change agent. Warren described Jenner as his Dr. Phil, after Dr. Phil McGraw, the jubilant relationship and life strategy expert who enjoined viewers to get real on the Oprah Winfrey Show. It is telling too that Warren resolved to demonstrate a renewed personal commitment by the age's simplest and most popular formula, diet and exercise. We'll now go over a few key terms from the lesson that will become useful throughout the unit.
What is continuity and change?
Patterns of similarity and difference amongst different events, actions, beliefs and values across different historical contexts.
How is continuity and change relevant to Australian identities?
Looking at internationally popular Australian identities within different historical contexts allow us to understand popular national beliefs and values have changed, been influenced by international culture in an increasingly global world.
What is empathy?
Empathy is the ability to understand different personal perspectives within an historical context.
How is empathy relevant to Australian identities?
Through the unit, we will empathise with the perspectives of Australian identities and associated commentators in order to better understand the changing beliefs and values within an historical context. The lesson has taught us that we can achieve the learning outcome by understanding how identities influence the beliefs and values of historical contexts, by understanding the causes and effects that shape identities, and by understanding the influence of Australian identities in shaping and being shaped by the epoch of international popular culture. In the classroom, we're going to begin looking at the following assessment task question. Students create a poster that discusses the impact of an post-1945 Australian identity who has influenced international popular culture through music, film, television or sport. In the unit, we're going to use the following skills to answer our assessment task question. Developing inquiry questions, identifying useful resources, synthesising information, using evidence, using chronological sequencing, analysing different perspectives, using digital imagery and other graphical information. Thanks Grade 10 History. Please bring any questions about this introductory video to class on Monday. See you all then.